Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to Season 2 of Meat for the Grinder, our series dedicated to Necromunda Dark Uprising Battle Reports. Meat for the Grinder is a Necromunda campaign set in the final days of Hive Arcos, where Chaos, Xenos, and Order clash for control of a collapsing Hive City. And on today's episode, Aqua Cola of the Water Guild Outcasts will fight against House Cawdor's Children of the Deep Friah in a search and destroy scenario to the death. My buddy Warlord Ace is bringing his Water Guild Outcast game that is corrupted by the influence of Nurgle, while my little sister the Kiddo is bringing her House Cawdor gang, which has been kicking butt and taking names in this campaign, I must say so. Now, because this battle report is a little bit longer and is a bit of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below, so that way you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll by talking about our rosters.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
So the scenario rules for this one is search and destroy. Pretty much the idea is that the battlefield is divided into quadrants and you must search each of the quadrants to find a weapons cache. For the crews on this one, the attacker gets a custom selection of 10 fighters. In this case, my friend Warlord Ace will be the attacker of the scenario, while the defender gets D3 plus 3 randomly chosen fighters, and my little sister the Kiddo is the defender in this scenario. The idea is that you go into a quadrant and you basically have to take a lose an activation marker from one of your fighters. And the reason why is because in the end phase they have to roll a d6. On a 5 or 6 they found the cache, in which case it can be taken off the board for the defenders and earn victory points, or destroyed by the attackers. The attackers must pass an intelligence test, getting +1 to that intelligence test for every fighter that is within 2 inches of them. If they manage to do that, they earn a victory point for destroying a weapons cache as well. Now for the defender, they get reinforcements at the beginning of the second round, at the end of the second round, and then of course they get one randomly chosen fighter every single time after that. Ending the battle conditions that when all the weapon caches have either been moved off the battlefield or been destroyed, the game ends. Whoever's got the most victory points is the winner of the scenario. Now for the rewards for this one, the attacker earns D3 times 10 credits for each of the weapon stashes that are destroyed, while the defender earns D6 times 10 credits for each of the stashes they manage to save. Every fighter that participates in the battle earns 1 experience point. The attacker who destroys a weapon cache earns a bonus experience point, and each defender who removes a weapons cache from the battlefield earns additional D3 experience points. For reputation, the victorious gang earns D3 points of reputation, and if either gang bottles out, they lose 1 point of reputation. So with the scenario rules over with, let's talk about battle plans and deployments. Alright, so here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, my friend Warlord Ace is located on the near side of the table, while my sister the kiddo is deployed on the far side of the table as well. Now as for battle plans on this one, the battle plans are pretty simple. Basically they got to go to each quadrant of the battlefield and try to look for weapons cache. If they manage to find one, they have to destroy or to escort off the table. As for the specific actual battle plans, I'm not really sure about because my 2 friends are playing in this game and I'm just taking photos and recording the results. So because of that, not really much to be said about the battle plan on this particular battle report. So with battle plans over, let's talk about deployment for Aqua Cola. On the far left hand side in the back, that is Eros Slagmus, the Dramatis Personae bounty hunter, who is the champion in this gang. And the front of him is the Abomination of Bad Zone 12, which is the Dramatis Personae chaos mutant creature that's from the Book of Ruin. The reason why that is the case is because the difference in gang rating between both the Kiddos gang as well as my friend Warlord Ace. He is clearly the underdog in this battle report, so because he gets him to balance him out, he chose decided to take the Abomination of Bad Zone 12, which narratively fits. Right to the right hand side of the Abomination of Bad Zone 12 is Sotelo, which is a Chaos Spawn, and right behind them is a character named Sing Sing, which is a Outcast champions armed with a web gun. In the center of the battlefield, starting on the left-hand side and working upward from the back left, that is Water, which is the Chaos Swindler, who's attached to Og Mendazor, which is a Master Nautic who's also a weird archetype, who's the leader of this gang. Up in the front of them, in the left-hand side, that character's name is Tariana. She is armed with a Melta-gun. In the center there is Temperance Vanderseer, the Subnautican, armed with twin open fists. And on the right-hand side is a character named Kruging, who's got a shotgun with solid and scatter ammo. And on the far right hand side is another 4-man fire team. In the back left, that is Kyria Dularal. She is a Siphonite who's also champion this gang with her little Chaos Familiar power. Up on the left hand side, that character's name is Van Damon, who's got a hotshot las gun. And next on the right hand side, that is Pontian, who's got twin needle pistols. And that pretty much makes a deployment for Aqua Cola. Meanwhile, across the table is a deployment for the children of the Deep Friah. On the left-hand side in the back, that character's name is the Lady of Rats. She is a deacon redemption. She is a redemptionist deaconess. She's got a eviscerator. Right next to her on the left-hand side, that character's name is Adamar, who's a Cawdor brethren with a pole arm with blunderbuss, as well as bomb delivery rats and incendiary charges. On the right-hand side, that is Malleus, who is a bone picker armed with twin stub guns and dum-dum rounds. In the center area of the deployment, we have 3 other fighters. Actually, one of them is sitting by the pillar there. On the left-hand side, that is Edwin the Purge, who is a Redemptionist brethren armed with an Eviscerator. Right next to him is Simon the Simeon the Summoner, who is a Cawdor brethren who is armed with a pole arm autogun combo. And on the right-hand side of that area is, of course, Mordo, who is a bone picker armed with twin stub guns with dum-dum rounds. And finally, perched up all the way in the Watchtower on the Metro Chemical Works is the Hive Quake, which is a Stig Shambler who's got Gunner Force Cloak, Mesh Armor, as well as Twin Linked Heavy Stubber and a Pole Arm. And that pretty much makes the deployment for this one. Alright, so that takes regularly top at turn number 1. Both of my friends roll off initiative to see which of them going first, and my little sister managed to get the initiative on this one, so she'll be activating first. And for her very first activation, she decides to activate the Hive Quake, who does a basic action aim its heavy stubber, and another basic action open fire with its heavy stubber, twin linked heavy stubber, directly at the Aqua Cola. And apparently my sister has been ordained by the Emperor of Mankind to actually be the embodiment of holy firepower, because this was the result that she actually rolled for her 3 rapid fire dice. She actually rolled up one shot that actually came up with 4 shots, but 2 of them came up with ammo checks on that. So because of that, she decided to re-roll all of her rapid fire dice. As you can see here, she actually ended up rolling 8 shots in total, which she decided to put directly into this fire team right in front of them. Needless to say, my little sister actually mowed these poor guys down like they were wheat. So first of all, Ponte on the right hand side gets a serious injury as well as a flesh wound, so he's currently lying on the ground. He is bleeding out as we're speaking. Next on the left hand side, that guy Van Damon, the very newest member of the gang, actually goes out of action with an out cold result. So first blood goes directly towards the Cawdor on this one. And in the very back there, Kyria Dularal, the Siphonite, also takes a serious injury as well. So she goes crashing face down into the dirt, and she is currently bleeding out as well. And just like that, 3 fighters are on the ground. Needless to say, Power, the little chaos familiar, could not handle all this and failed as cool says, and it fled back, I think, 7 or 8 inches away from all of that, just because it doesn't feel like getting shot at, which is a pretty crazy first activation for my little sister, the kiddo. So going to my buddy Warlord Ace, he does a group activation with Augmendazor, who also activates Tariana as well as Temperance Bandis here. The very first thing she decides to do is actually have Augmendazor take a double action in order to search the area to see if he can find any weapons caches. So because he will lose his ready marker and he'll activate during the end phase. Meanwhile, Temperance Bandis here as well as Tariana both do double movements forward, moving across the battlefield as quickly as possible to close into the far right hand corner quadrant, so that way they can search for weapon caches and at the same time get out of the field of fire of that deadly twin-linked heavy stubber belonging to the Hivequake. So not to be outdone, my little sister decides to do another group activation with the Lady of Rats as well as with Adamar. And both those fighters do double movements forward, with the Lady of the Rats taking cover behind that fence on the right hand side and Adamar hiding behind that pillar on the left hand side as well. Warlord Ace then activates his outcast Hive Kruging, who also does a double action in order to search the area as well, doubling their chances of finding a weapons cache, so he won't lose his ready marker and he will also have to be activated during the end phase of this turn to see if he finds anything. And my little sister does exactly the same thing with Malleus, making him actually search the quadrant as well to look for any loot caskets in that location. For Warlord Ace's next activation, he activates Eros Slagmus, who also activates in that group activation the Abomination of Bad Zone 12. And both those fighters move as quick as they possibly can, taking double movements across up the left-hand approach. Eros Slagmus heads to the ladder directly towards the fuel tanks beneath the highway on the left-hand side, while the Abomination of Bad Zone 12 takes point and starts making its way directly down the main drag. My sister Kira then activates Edwin the Purge, who's going to be activating next. Will actually moves up just a little bit in order to take a cover position right behind that pillar in order to protect it from any approaches from Temperance Bandis here. It is armed with this raider because he can't open fire with a strength 3 flaming attack, so I think that's the reason why my sister put that fighter there in a defensive position. Warlord Ace then activates Sing Sing, who does a group activation with Sotelo the Chaos Spawn, who is directly in front of him. Sotelo does a double movement forward. I think he moves up 11 inches straight ahead, basically rolling 2d6 in order to see how far he goes. So that's right in the middle of the main drag, facing down both Adamar on the left-hand side as well as Lady of Rats, who's in front of him. Meanwhile, Sing Sing hangs back and decides to do a double action in order to search the area to find any loot counters, so because of that, he will also have to activate during the end phase as well. The kiddo then activates Simeon the Summoner, who is the fighter who is armed with an autogun polearm. Basically takes a basic action to aim with his autogun polearm. Another basic action, open fire directly towards Temperance Bandis here, which is the Subnauticon who's heading towards them. And once again, showing that my sister truly is the champion of the Emperor of Mankind, she managed to fire 3 shots directly at Temperance Sandevere, and at the same time also putting 2 wounds on the Subnauticon right off the bat. So right off the bat, he is now only a third of the way dead, which is absolutely horrific for my buddy Warlord Ace. My little sister got extremely lucky on that one. And to add insult to injury, he also gets pinned as well, so he goes to the ground and he collapses from the surprisingly accurate gunfire from a Cawdor fighter. And because Aqua Cola doesn't have any more fighters to activate, the rest of the turn is dedicated to the very last fighter in the kiddo's gang, which is Mordo. He does a basic action, double action as well in order to search the area to look for any loot counters, and he will also be activated in the end phase. And with that, that takes directly to the end phase. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, both the Aqua Cola is setting both their fire teams up the center as well as the left-hand side of the battlefield. Unfortunately for my buddy Warlord Ace, though, his right-hand fire team pretty much got curb stomped by the Hivequake, opening fire with that twin-linked stub gun heavy stubber directly into them and just kind of basically collapsed the entire flank. At the same time, my little sister's actually getting quite lucky by putting up some shots, taking down Temper's Vantage. Your 2 wounds, as crazy may sound. At the same time, both sides also have fighters who will be searching for weapons caches, which we'll be talking about now. Unfortunately for my buddy Warlord Ace, both his leader Augmendazor as well as Kriegan were unable to find any weapon caches in the location, so they turned up empty-handed. And the same thing happened to Sing Sing on the left-hand side of the battlefield as well, and they managed to find no weapons caches in this first turn. However, for the kiddo, the Emperor apparently guided them with Divine Light because Mordo was able to find something here in the back end. So because of that, the weapon cache is now in his possession. And the exact same thing ended up happening for Malleus as well, striking pay dirt and also finding a weapons cache as well. So apparently the Emperor truly does protect the House of Cawdor. In the recovery phase, Little Power, which is the Chaos Familiar, managed to get its cool trick under control, earning itself a bonus experience point, and will be able to activate normally next turn. Unfortunately for Pontian, however, they rolled an out-of-action result, and they rolled a critical injury, so because of they only need to do a medical escort mission for this character to see if he actually survives. Now, luckily for my buddy Warlord Ace, he does have a rogue doc named Old Sawbones, so assuming that he doesn't get any more critical injuries in the rest of this battle report, that guy should pretty much make a recovery. Unfortunately for Warlord Ace, though, his Siphonite Kyria du Laurel, she rolls another serious injury roll on her injury dice because she is currently bleeding out and takes a flesh wound because of that, which means now she's only toughness 2, which makes it easier to wound, and at the same time she is extremely vulnerable just lying there right out in the middle of the open. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and once again my little sister managed to secure the initiative on this one, so she'll be activating first. And for the kiddo's first activation, she activates the Lady of Rats, who does a group activation with Adamar as well. And the first thing that Adamar does, of course, is deploy a Bomb Rat. He managed to pass his intelligence test easily, so because of the Bomb Rat can now travel 6 inches forward, which is exactly what it does. And the Bomb Rat heads directly towards the Abomination of Bad Zone 12 and explodes with a d6 roll of a 4 up. So because a huge 5-inch blast template engulfs both the Abomination of Bad Zone 12 as well as Pontian Sotelo, and the reason why is because it was an incendiary charge located on it. Now the incendiary charge, of course, is only strength 3, but it does have the Blaze Special rule, and that also kicks into effect. As you can see, both of these creatures run backwards with the random direction, and they're also on fire as well, and they get collapsed as well as pinned, and they're currently burning from the smolders created by the incendiary charge delivered by Adamar's Bomb Rat. For the rest of the activation, Adamar does a simple action in order to climb up directly to the 2nd floor of the fuel tank, and the Lady of Rats also does a double movement to do exactly the same thing, taking cover position to look down upon the main drag, securing the left-hand approach. So for his next activation, Warlord Ace decides to activate Tariana, who is the outcast who's actually armed with a Melta-Gun. Tariana does a simple movement to move up 4 or 5 inches, and a basic action open fire with the Melta-Gun directly at the maximum range of her Melta-Gun, directly at Mordo, who's across from her, who's the Juvie, who's got the weapon cache. Needless to say, the shot is good, and Mordo does get hit by the Melta-Gun, but like I said before, my sister must have made a deal with the Emperor of Mankind, because Mordo only suffers a serious injury roll, so he does go crashing face down into the ground, and he is currently bleeding out, but it could have been much worse. This guy should have gone out of action with the power of that Melta-Gun, but my little sister got extremely lucky on this one. So, realizing just how dangerous that Melta-Gun is, my little sister decides to activate the Hivequake, who does a basic action aim its twin-linked heavy stubber directly at Tariana, right in the middle of the battlefield. And she cuts loose. I believe she got 4 shots off and managed to put them directly onto Tariana as well. Tariana obviously goes out of action from the hell of gunfire, and when she rolled her for lasting injury, she rolled a capture result. So just like that, the children of the Deep Friah have captured Tariana from the Aqua Cola, which means that the Cawdor, as well as with the Water Guild, will need to face off again later on this campaign week in order to see if they can rescue their captured comrade. For his next activation, Warlord Ace decides to activate Temperance Vandeseer, his Subnauticon. His Subnauticon does a basic action, get back on his feet, and another base simple action to move directly to the right hand side, taking cover behind that Jersey barrier in hopes of not getting shot at again. In response, the kiddo activates Simeon the Summoner, who decides to do a simple action to move up directly towards to pick up that weapons cache that's right next to him. And he moves the weapons cache directly towards the middle of the deployment area, and because of the weapon cache is now recovered, earning himself D3 additional experience points as well as additional victory points for the gang. For the Abomination of Bad Zone 12, he does a simple action in order to put himself out of flames. He managed to take care of the blaze trait, so he's perfectly fine. And because he used one of the actions to put out the flames, it takes another basic action to get back on his feet again, and so he'll be able to activate during the next turn. And because it's part of a group activation, Eroslagmus also does a Delum to go directly to the top of the ladder, so that way he can face off against the Lady of Rats as well as Adamar on the top of the fuel tanks. The kiddo then activates Mordo next, who moves back a little bit with the weapons cache and actually recovers it, earning himself D3 experience points, as well as some additional credits, as well as victory points for the gang. Going back to my friend Warlord Ace, he once again does a group activation with Augmendazor as well as Kruging. Both those guys decide to take base double actions in order to once again search the area to see if they can find a weapons cache. So because of that, they will be activated later on during the end phase. And the kiddo, feeling nervous in the stirrups about the fact that Temperance Vandeseer is so close to her gang, decides to activate Edwin the Purge, who's going to move up and open fire with his Eviscerator directly at Temperance Vandeseer. So as you can see, Edwin the Purge moves up a handful of inches and opens fire with his template weapon, firing their Eviscerator directly at Temperance Vandeseer. Now he does manage to hit Temperance Vandeseer, but he does fail to wound Temperance Vandeseer. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because unfortunately I forgot to take the photo of the aftermath of this, so I do apologize for that. However, Temperance Vandeseer does fail his blaze test, however, so he does catch on fire. I think he moves back 6 or 7 inches away from that Jersey barrier, and he's currently pinned and he's also on fire. So things are not looking really good right now for Temperance Vandeseer. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, Sing Sing decides to do a group activation with Sotelo. Sing Sing decides to take a double action in order to search the area once again. So Sing Sing will activate in the end phase to search the area. At the same time, Sotelo also takes a simple action to put himself out of fire, manages to do so, and does a basic action to get back onto his feet again. He will be able to activate during the next turn as well. And because no more less than the members of the gang of the Cawdor to activate the rest of the turn goes Aqua Cola, my buddy Warlord Ace decides to activate Power, which is his little Chaos Familiar. And Power does a double series of movements that go directly next to Kriya Dulal, so that way he can also lend some support during the recovery phase with a medical check. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase, and here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, things are not looking very good right now for Aqua Cola. They're slowly being whittled away bit by bit by some surprising long-range fire being provided by the Cawdor. At the same time, they're also being set on fire quite a bit by the Cawdor gangs, which kind of makes sense. So things are not looking so great right now for my buddy Warlord Ace. But with that being said, though, we're going to go directly to the end phase and talk about exactly what happened. Unfortunately for Warlord Ace, both Augmendazor as well as Kruging were unable to find anything at all. And as you can see right there on the top, you can see where Temperance Vandeseer is located at, how he fled back, and he's still currently on fire. So I do apologize for not taking a photo of that earlier in the battle report. However, Sing Sing, though, does find something. So he manages to find a weapon cache from a shelf, which is the very first weapon cache for the Aqua Cola. He will need to take an intelligence test in the next turn if he wants to destroy it, and if he manages to do so, they earn victory points as well as credits. During the recovery phase, Mordo actually makes a flesh wound roll, so because he rolls over and he does take a flesh wound, so he has 1 less toughness, but he can still move, he can still shoot, he can still fight, so he's still very much a threat. And unfortunately for Warlord Ace, when he rolled the injury dice for Kriya Dulal, he actually rolled 2 skulls on that one. The first one was an out of action result, but because of medical aid rendered by little power, he got to re-roll it and rolled a skull again. This time, Kriya Dulal, of course, goes out of action with an out cold result, so she'll make a full recovery with no problems. And because it is the second round, reinforcements do start coming in for the Cawdor on this one. So my little sister draws a random fighter card and draws out her leader, Levitico Bonestorm, which is a Redemptor Priest armed with a chain glaive. She also rolled the won the roll off for this character, so she was able to choose what table edge he deploys on. So he deploys on the far right hand side. So with that being said, turn number 2 is over with. We go directly to the top of turn number 3, and both of my friends roll off for initiative to see which of them has priority. So we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and my little sister, the kiddo, once again managed to secure the initiative on this one, so she will be activating first for turn 3. And for her very first activation, she does a group activation with the Lady of Rats as well as with Adamar. And once again, Adamar does deploy a bomb rat, successfully passing his intelligence test in order to direct the bomb rats. The bomb rat starts heading directly towards Eros Slagmus, once again packing an incendiary charge. And with a blast of holy hellfire, that thing explodes, launching a 5-inch template and also engulfing Eros Slagmus in a curtain of flames. Eros Slagmus also fails his blaze test because he does fall off the platform at the top and goes crashing to the ground. He is currently on fire. And for the second action for Adamar, Adamar moves up his normal movement allowance with a simple movement because he's out of range to use his blunderbuss. However, the Lady of Rats, though, does move up and fall up closer behind, and she also opens up with her Eviscerator, firing the flamer on that directly towards the Abomination of Bad Zone 12. Unfortunately, when the photo was taken, the template slid to the right hand side, so it looks kind of weird, but it was within range, and of course the Abomination was once again hit with a flamer. Once again, the Abomination of Bad Zone 12 fails his blaze test, and it goes tearing to the left hand side of the battlefield, running away at is currently trying to put out the flames. Warlord Ace then does a group activation with Sing Sing, who also does a group activation with the Chaos Spawn Sotelo. Sing Sing stays back so that way he could try to destroy the ammo container, but unfortunately fails his intelligence test because nothing much really happens there, so he has to wait another turn to see if he can do it again. Meanwhile, Sotelo the Chaos Spawn rolls 2d6, I believe rolled Boxcar, so because he goes tearing across the battlefield directly to the second floor of the fuel tank, getting himself set up for a charge in the next turn. In response to this, the kiddo then decides to activate the MVP for her team in this battle report, which of course is the Hive Quake. He does a basic action to aim his twin-linked heavy stubber to get +1 to hit, and opens up with 3 rapid-fire dice directly across the battlefield. And managed to get 5 shots off on this one as well, putting 2 of those shots directly into the Kruging, who actually takes a serious injury, so he lays on the ground, and he is currently bleeding out. But the other shots that go directly towards Augmentazor actually get cancelled out, and the reason why is because of all the willpower tests that was actually successfully passed. Because of that, little Chaos Familiar saves the day once again. So now to be outdone, Warlord Ace decides to activate Augmentazor, who decides to use his Overseer skill, and he puts it directly across from him to Tempered's Vandeseer to give that fighter double sets of activations. So for his very first activation, he actually gets up off his feet in order to escape pinning. And he does a simple movement directly towards the right hand side of the tabletop, trying to get himself closer towards Levitico Bonestorm for his first set of activations. And for his second set of activation, he declares a charge directly against Levitico Bonestorm and actually rips across the battlefield directly into him, engaging the leader into a close hand-to-hand combat. But before he gets a chance to strike, the killer does activate Articles of Faith, and this one of course is, and each blow shall be a barb onto my enemy's flesh. She's been collecting Faith dice during this battle report. She decides to cash them in now in order to get this off as well. And what ends up happening is that Tempered's Vandeseer must pass a willpower test in order to target Levitico Bonestorm in close combat. If he fails his willpower test, he does not get to attack and immediately suffers a flesh wound. And unfortunately for my buddy Warlord Ace, he does fail his willpower test, so because of that he takes a flesh wound, which makes him easier to wound, and those attacks actually rain upon Levitico Bonestorm. And with faithful fervor, Levitico Bonestorm does a strike back against a Tempered's Vandeseer, managed to put that guy out of action, hitting him twice and wounding him twice with that chain glaive as well. Puts him out of action with a humiliating injury. Apparently Tempered's Vandeseer probably was humiliated with the fact that he was wowed by science, or actually wowed by the faith of the Redemptor Priest, and so because it loses 1 point to his leadership as well to his cool. So for next activation, the kiddo then activates Levitical Bone Storm, and does double movements directly across the battlefield, heading directly towards the quadrant there, so that way he can also start searching for a weapons cache. Warlord Ace then activates Eros Slagmus, who manages to put out the flames for his very first action and does a second action to get back on his feet again to escape pinning. And with a Cry of Faith, Melissa decides to activate Edwin the Purge, who also does double movements forward as well in order to support Levitical Bone Storm in their assault against the Water Guild. Warlord Ace then tries to put out the flames on the Abomination of Bads on 12. Unfortunately, though, he fails that test, so because he is still currently pinned and on fire. And because no more Water Guild fighters to activate next, the rest of the turn is dedicated to the Cawdors. As you can see here, my sister sends up both Simeon the Summoner as well as Moro. Both those characters do double movements forward in order to start making their assault towards the Water Guild. And lastly, the Bone Picker Malleus does exactly the same thing, heading directly towards the other side of the battlefield as well. And with that, that takes us directly to the end phase of turn number 3. Here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, not very much is happening right now for the Water Guild. They're slowly being overran by the Cawdor. We're now starting to take the offense and starting to launch a counterattack against them. They suffered a lot of losses up to this point, only managed to recover one weapon cache at this point. During the recovery phase, add insult to injury, Kruging also goes out of action as well without cold results. Because of that, he will no longer be participating in this battle report. And once again, the kiddo does manage to get another reinforcement. This time she randomly drew Makarian, which is the Cawdor champion, who's armed with a heavy crossbow, and she also run the roll-off to see where this guy gets deployed. So she puts him right directly at the 6 o'clock position in the enemy deployment zone, planning on firing the heavy crossbow directly at Augmendazor. It's also at this point that my buddy Warlord Ace realizes there's no way he's going to be able to win this battle report, so he decides to voluntarily bottle out, which nets another victory for the House Cawdor against Aqua Cola. So with that being said, we're going to go directly to the after action report to the post game, because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, so now it's time for the post game, starting off with Warlord Ace's gang, Aqua Cola, the Water Guild Outcast gang, which is also Nurgle Corrupted. Unfortunately for Warlord Ace, he did suffer a number of injuries in this battle report. Curia, Dulal, Kruging, as well as Van Damon all made full recoveries because they all had out cold results. Temperance Bandit here suffered a humiliating injury, losing 1 point to his leadership and to his cool, but he also makes up for recovery as well. Pontian suffered a critical injury, and they did a medical escort mission to see old Sawbones, which is the rogue dog within their gang. He also rolled up a convalescence as well, so he makes a full recovery too. Terion unfortunately was captured by the children of the Deep Friah, so because of that, the Aqua Cola will need to face off against the children of the Deep Friah in order to save their comrade later on. For the Dark Ritual, they decided to use Pontian as the vessel for the Dark Ritual, and actually for my buddy Warlord Ace, they managed to earn the Blessings of Nurgle. So just like that, their leader also gets +1 to their wound characteristic. At the same time, they can also reroll any injury dice that they might need in the future as well. Pontian also earned 5 experience points from the Dark Ritual. So, 2 fighters from the gang did level up during this time period. Water, the Chaos Simulator that is attached to Augmendazor, actually leveled up to level 1, earning +1 to his movement characteristics. Now his movement 6, and also increases credit value by 10 credits. And Pontian also leveled up as well after the Dark Ritual. When they rolled up on the random chart for gangers, he actually got +1 to his movement, so because he is now movement 6, and also increases movement characteristic by 10 credits as well. For their territories, from Chaos Fane, they only get 10 credits from that territory, and from their settlement, they managed to recruit 2 new outcast Hive scum named Pava Grotungus, as well as Pappy Blight. And the reason why they've been able to recruit these guys is because of the Fleeting Utopia campaign event that's taking place this week, where basically territories double the number of benefits you get from them. These guys also come with 25 credits worth of equipment, so Papa Grotungus brought a 2-handed axe with him, and Pappy Blight also brought in a chainsword. They're also to be able to drum up 60 credits from that territory as well. From their slave pit, however, they did lose that to the children of the Deep Friah. From the trading post, they managed to secure 70 credits from their territories, and when combined with 105 credits from their stash, gave 175 in credits in total. They spent almost all of it except for 75 credits of it, in which case they put directly into the stash. With their credits, Papa Grotungus actually got a stub gun with dum-dum rounds, as well as a hazard suit, as well as frag grenades for him. And as for Pappy Blight, they also purchased him a hazard suit as well to give him a 6-up armor save. They also purchased frag grenades, as well as a stub gun, as well as dum-dum rounds for that fighter as well. In the end, he was able to secure 1 point reputation for this campaign week, which brings up his grand total to 9 reputation points in total. His current record now is at 1 win as well as 2 losses, and his new gang rating now is at 3,160 points. So moving on, we move on to the victors of this battle report, which is my little sister, the Kiddos gang, the children of the Deep Friah of House Cawdor. So we'll talk about their injuries, advancements, territories, trading post actions, reputation, new record, as well as their new rating. My sister's gang suffered no injuries in this battle report, so for advancements, Lady Brat's leveled up to level 1, actually getting +1 to her toughness, making her toughness 4, and also increasing her credit value by 30 credits. Malkarium, the Cawdor Firebrand, also leveled up as well, earning +1 to his toughness as well, and also increasing his credit value by 30 credits. Simeon the Summoner also leveled up as well. When they rolled up on the Ganger experience chart to see what his advancement would be, he actually got +1 to his intelligence, so he now dropped him down to intelligence 6, at the same time also increased his credit value by 5 credits. Malleus also leveled up to level 1 as well, earning +1 to his toughness and also increasing his credit value by 30 credits. So now he's a toughness 4 bone picker. And lastly, the Hive Quake, who is definitely the MVP in this battle report, actually leveled up to 2 levels on this one. Got +1 to his Blizzard skill, so now he's Blizzard skill 3, and +1 to his movement characteristics, now he's movement characteristic 5, increasing his credit value by 30 credits in total as well. For the Kiddos territories from her settlement, she recruited 2 new bone pickers named Clavatos as well as Pyraster, and both of those guys are armed with stub guns as well as cleavers. She also managed to drum up 50 credits from that territory. She earned 80 credits from her thermal vent, 20 credits from her wastelands territory, 60 credits from her wall outpost, and managed to increase Sister Silas's experience point by 1 and 2 experience point for Edwin the Purge, and also managed to secure 40 credits from that territory. The Kiddo was able to earn 120 credits from the scenario for saving 2 weapons caches, as well as 250 credits from her territories, and when combined together gave her a grand total of 370 credits in total. With those 370 credits in total, she purchased 7 credits to buy bomb delivery rats with incendiary charges for Simeon the Summoner, since his intelligence now is lower now, so now she has 2 of those guys packing bomb rats. She spent 20 credits to get a Cawdor polearm autogun for Adamar because she realized that Adamar's blunderbuss was not actually doing anything, so she decided to switch him out with a longer range autogun instead. She then placed Adamar's Cawdor polearm blunderbuss into the stash. She spent 90 credits to purchase mesh armor for all of her bone pickers. That is Malleus, Baphomet, Mordo, Blake, Clavatos, as well as Pyraster, and she placed the 4 extra sets of flak armor into her stash. She then also spent 180 credits to purchase frag grenades for all 6 bone pickers as well, so those guys will be lobbing those things around. And then for her last 10 credits, she spent it for dum-dum rounds for both Clavatos as well as Pyraster, her newly acquired bone pickers. So here's a close-up of Clavatos, one of her bone pickers that she newly recruited. He's got mesh armor as well as stub gun dum-dum rounds, as well as a cleaver and frag grenades. And here's a close-up shot of Pyraster, the other bone picker she managed to recruit, who's also got mesh armor, stub gun with dum-dum rounds, cleaver, as well as frag grenades. In the end, she was able to drum up 1 reputation point for the campaign week, as well as 3 points reputation from the scenario, giving her a grand total of 21 reputation in total. Her new record now is at 3 wins and 1 loss, and her new gang rating now is at 3,620 points. So there you guys have it. That's battle report number 16 done in the record books. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.